metal oxide and semiconductor are separate, and we have seen the importance of the vacuum energy level E naught. Everything is measured with respect to E naught level, and for metal we use aluminum silicon dioxide for oxide, and here we are considering for semiconductor we have a P silicon substrate material, and we have considered the case where the work function difference in case of a metal is less than in case that of a semiconductor p-type silicon. As you can see, phi wm is not equal to phi wp, which is the work function difference is the different for metal and for p silicon. And for metal we don't have conduction and a valence band, we have just the Fermi level EFM, and in an oxide we have a very large band gap separated by EC and EV, and we have a very small electron affinity. And over here in case of semiconductor we have conduction band, valence band, intrinsic Fermi level, and actually quasi Fermi level EFP. So since it is a p-type material, your quasi Fermi level will be closer to your valence band, indicating it's a p-type material. Okay, so this is about the isolated MOS cap. Now on the right hand side what you see over here is my MOS capacitor energy band diagram when three of them are joined together. As you can see over here, there is some bending happening over here. Okay, so we will see in the next 5 minutes why this band bending happens when we join the metal, oxide and semiconductor together. Okay, so let's see, we have not even applied any voltages externally, we have just joined them together. So what we will see is now shortly. Okay, so the work function of metal, as we can see, is less than the work function of your semiconductor when all three materials are now concentrate on the right hand side diagram. Let me just little bit expand it. Okay, yeah, a little better. So concentrate on this diagram. So whenever the three materials are joined together to form a MOS capacitor, this MOS device comes into equilibrium. So for MOSFET to be in equilibrium, the Fermi levels, that is EFM and EFP, should be aligned. Okay, should be on the same line. That means there can be no current flow through this MOS capacitor. Eventually, even if we apply any external voltage, there won't be ever any current flow inside this MOS device, because we have because we have a silicon dioxide, that is a insulator in between, which will not allow any current to flow through the MOSFET. Okay, so whenever we apply the Fermi level, whenever the Fermi levels are aligned, what will happen? EFM and EFP should be aligned for this MOS cap to be in equilibrium, right? So over here, if you see carefully, whenever they were not whenever they were isolated together, EFM and EFP were different levels. Particularly, if you see, EFM was at a higher level as compared to EFP, correct? So what we need to do is we need to either bring down EFM or bring up EFP. Okay, so that is what will happen over here. Let me just reduce this a little. Yeah, so for energy levels to be aligned together, that is a MOS capacitor to be in equilibrium, your EFM will come down and your EFP will go up. Okay, so for this to happen, we have to we have to make sure that EFM energy comes down and EFP comes up. Okay, should increase. This should increase and this should decrease. This means that some electrons are transferred from metal to semiconductor. Correct? If the energy is decreased, means what? We are losing some electrons from the metal, and where they are going? They are going to the semiconductor. Maybe the gate and the body terminal are connected via wire. Maybe the transfer is happening via there. Remember, no current is flowing still. Okay. In other ways, we can say some holes are taken out of the semiconductor. Okay, so this only happens if there was a connection to the ground either in the gate or the semiconductor or together. So it can hypothetically mean this situation. Okay, so either the gate or the body or the semiconductor are connected to the ground. Okay, even if we do that, this should happen. Okay, so the EFM should come down and EFP should go up. Okay, so in equilibrium the entire MOS capacitor would be charge neutral. Okay, charge neutral means there will be no flow of charges at all on the either side. There will be no current. So let's draw the energy band diagram with the Fermi level aligned. Okay, so let us start by doing that. Okay, let me just adjust this. So what we'll do is we'll start by drawing the Fermi levels. I mean, if you all want, you all can draw this energy band diagram in your books. You follow this procedure and draw step by step. Okay, so first start by drawing the, we know that the MOS capacitor will be in equilibrium. So first start drawing by drawing the energy levels EFM and EFP perfectly aligned. So first you draw this, and then what will happen is, since we want EFM to come down and EFP to come up, when they are aligned, that means what? Let's say these 2 points are anchors. I mean, let me just expand this. Let's say these 2 points are anchors, right? If we fix one, other one will move up. Okay, so let's say I want to fix this level EFM. So this EFP will go up. Okay, that is what is shown over here. Okay, so once they are aligned, that means this level has gone up and this level has stayed there only. Okay, so now that the Fermi levels have aligned, but what will happen? The energy levels bend upwards in the oxide layer, okay, to match this. Fine, so this is what will happen. From this step, it will go to this step. Okay, so EFM and EFP to be aligned, what will happen is this will tilt the energy bands in the oxide upwards, as you can see very clearly. Okay, now next is we have drawn these 3 levels, EFM, EFP, and we have drawn the conduction band and the valence band in the oxide layer. Next, we focus on drawing the conduction band, intrinsic Fermi level, valence band, and E naught levels in the semiconductor. So we know that the electric field relation with respect to EC, EV, and EI inside a material is given by this formula. E is equal to 1 upon Q delta EC upon delta X. That means what? There will be a presence of electric field in the oxide layer also, which will be directed from left to right. So there will be a presence of electric field. So whenever there is a presence of electric field, there will be a change in the energy band. There will be a bending of band slightly. So this electric field, this with the help of this electric field, this bending happens in case of a metal. But some amount of bending also happens in case of semiconductor. Okay, because as we have seen earlier, uh, for the Fermi level to be aligned, some of the holes are taken out of the semiconductor. That means we are losing holes from here. That means this side is becoming less p type. Okay, as compared to the bulk. This is the bulk region and this is the near the surface. Fine. So for this energy level to this energy level to move up, we have to lose some holes from here. Okay, so that is what is really going on over here. So let's start drawing it. So we know that energy electric field will be present only if there is some change in the band bending. And here the band bends in case of oxide. So there is a presence of electric field. Similarly, in case of conduction band, valence band, intrinsic Fermi level, there will be same band bending happening. So for the electric field in the semiconductor to be directed from left to right, okay, the slope of the band should be positive, correct? Here it is. Here I will show it to you. Here it is. So this is the same slope, which indicates that there is a small electric field in this area near the SiSiO2 interface. Okay, and this band bending goes in tandem with the in flow with the SiO2 layer. Okay, so this indicates that there is some electric field present inside the semiconductor where the electrons are moving away. Okay, so that is what is happening over here. Okay, now this explains this diagram, that is the band bending, and similarly the trend follows in E naught. So how to draw E naught? We know the distance Q into phi WP. So you leave the distance from here and you draw E naught, and the same trend will be followed over here, correct? And you know the distance from EFM to E naught in case of metal. So Q into phi FM, and you draw the remaining bending over here, band bending over here like this. So this trend will follow the trend in the oxide, and this curve will be there with the curve in case of your bend in case of your in a semiconductor near SiSiO2 interface. This is SiSiO2 interface, silicon oxide interface. So as you can see over here, since we are losing some holes out, as you can see very clearly here, the EFP and EV, right, they are moving away. EV slightly moved away from EFP, indicating that this region over here is less p-type compared to this region. This is more p-type away from the bulk. So this reshuffling of the holes which is moving out, indicates that this is lesser positive. So we have two Fermi potentials. One is called as bulk Fermi potential. Bulk means away from the interface. Okay, this is the bulk region which is very large. This I have shown hypothetically very small, but in reality it is very large. Okay, so over here we have a surface Fermi potential. Surface means over here. This one. Let me expand it. On the surface, we have the Fermi potential which is slightly different. That is called as surface Fermi potential, and we have a bulk Fermi potential where the bulk means the away from the interface. Okay, and this is the surface. Near the surface, I mean, if you have 1,000 holes over here in the p silicon, right? And if you are taking out the holes, where will the holes go out from? Either here or this side. This side, right? If some quantity is trapped inside, and if you want to take it out, it will move away from here, right? So from this in near the surface, indicating this is a slightly p-type material, lesser p-type material. Okay, so this is the important concept of your energy band bending in case of your MOS capacitor. So what will happen? This is what will happen when you join the three materials, that is metal, oxide and semiconductor together. We have a band bending, that is upward band bending from metal to p silicon. From left to right, we can say we have band bending towards upwards. Okay, so we'll pause for around 5 seconds. You can note down this energy band diagram. I hope that these points are clear. So again, I revise. First, we started with alignment of the Fermi levels, since this device is charge neutral. Okay, and then we drew the energy band diagram EC and EV in case of oxide, and then we concentrated on their semiconductor part away from the surface, that is in the bulk region. The bands are particularly flat, indicate there is no presence of electric field. There is presence of electric field only where near the interface on the semiconductor side, and this presence of electric field is indicated by the band bending. So wherever there is band bending, there is some presence of electric field. So what you can say over here, there is a presence of electric field in the oxide, and there is a presence of electric field near the oxide semiconductor interface. Okay, so if you have any doubt, you can raise your hands, or else I can move ahead. Okay, so I have given over here the textbook definition of textbook answer of why band bending happens in your MOS capacitor. So y'all can read it out. We have particularly covered all the points over here. Main point I want to stress on in this is this. Let me just expand this a little more. Okay, I was talking about bulk p silicon and near the surface. See, this is SiO2 layer. This line over here is separating oxide and semiconductor. So this line is called as SiO2 interface, and this is the region away from the bulk near the interface. So this region away from the bulk near the interface is called as surface. Okay, so here the potential, the Fermi potential here is different, and here it is different. So as we have already seen, the surface of p silicon near the interface of SiSO2 becomes less positive compared to the bulk p silicon. So this is the only point which I want to stress on. Rest all the points are being covered. Okay, fine. So I think we can move on to the next point. Now let's say I want to make this bands flat. Okay, I want to externally apply potential and make the bands, these energy bands, flat. So what is that condition called as? We will now see. So this is now concentrate over here. Next we draw, next we consider the flat band condition. So for an ideal MOS cap at Vg equal to 0, we have a flat band condition. Let us go to the ideal MOS capacitor. So this is your ideal MOS capacitor. As you can see over here, this is the ideal MOS capacitor. So we have a flat band condition already achieved over here. What do you mean by flat band condition? The bands in the semiconductor are flat. It indicates it's the charge neutrality, right? So it indicates that there is no electric field present whatsoever anywhere. Just means that all the bands in the semiconductor are flat. Okay, but this was the condition when phi fw and phi fp were same at the same level. Correct? Now let us see how to achieve the flat band condition in case over here. If we have this kind of energy band diagram, how to achieve a flat band condition. Okay, so again I repeat, flat band condition means zero charge condition in semiconductor. There is no charge transfer. Okay, so let us see that. So for this case where the band bending is there, at Vg equal to 0, the bands in the semiconductor are not flat. Okay, even if we applied gate voltage with respect to body as 0 volts, the band bending is not at all flat. So question is, to make the bands flat in the semiconductor flat, how much potential we should apply externally to this device, to this MOS capacitor. That means how much voltage we have to apply to the gate and the body to make this band flat. That is what we are going to see now. So that applied potential is called as flat band voltage, denoted by VFB. So it is a very important formula. Please note that down. Note that parameter down. Flat band voltage is the potential to be applied to the gate and the body to bring the energy bands to the flat band condition in the semiconductor. Okay, to just to make this energy bands flat, we have to apply external voltage, and that voltage is called as the flat band voltage. Okay, so in order to make this voltages flat band, what we will do is we'll see now. I think there is some slight mistake. I'll just let you all know. This EFM is by mistake. I have drawn it, copied it from the earlier diagram over here. In this case, this is a flat band condition, correct? But this is the case where phi w, the work function potential in the metal and the semiconductor are same. But in this case, down over here, because the work function of the metal and the semiconductor are different, these two levels won't be same. Okay, so let us no problem, let us proceed ahead with this. So from the energy band diagram, we can make the bands flat if we make somehow this phi fm and phi fw, the difference between phi fw and the phi wp and phi wm, phi wp minus phi wm is equal to flat band voltage. So that much voltage, the difference between the two work function potential will be equal to the flat band voltage. So what we are meaning to say is VFB should be equal to phi wm minus phi wp. If we apply this much voltage, then only we can get a flat band condition. Then only the branch will become flat. Okay. So externally we have to apply a negative voltage to the gate with respect to body. The body will be positive. Of course, this will be grounded. So here phi fm minus phi fp will be negative. Okay, so that means Vg will be negative. Remember, here the y-axis are electronic energies. So if we apply a negative potential, your Fermi levels will go up. Okay, the electric energies will go up. So that is what is happening over here. We want to make this energy move up so that this bands will become flat. Okay, so here it is. Now these are increasing electronic energies, as you can see clearly. So when we apply a negative voltage across the gate with respect to body, that is VFB, then automatically all the bands in the semiconductor goes flat. Only one mistake in this diagram is that your EFM will be slightly upwards. Okay, your EFM will be slightly upwards. That's the only condition. So here it is. Let me just go back to the other PDF. Okay, so to achieve a flat band condition in case of this diagram, in case of this energy band diagram, we apply a negative potential to the metal gate. Why we apply a negative potential? As you can see clearly over here, there is a difference between the work function between semiconductor and the metal. Okay, so this much difference is the flat band voltage. So when an external voltage minus VFB is equal to minus phi WP minus phi WM is applied to the MOS capacitor, then it achieves a flat band condition as it is shown over here. Okay, I repeat, there is one mistake in this diagram. EFM should be slightly upwards. and that much difference between the phi WP and phi WM is the flat band applied voltage. Okay, so this will make the MOS capacitor charge neutral again. Okay, so under the flat band conditions, all the energy bands are flat, and we have repeated this term Q into VFB. There is a flat band energy now because it is multiplied by Q is equal to minus of Q times phi Wm minus phi Wp. Okay, so in the flat band condition, the bands in the silicon and the oxide are flat. As a consequence, of this, there is no net charge in the semiconductor or the metal. Hence the electric field is zero everywhere. Okay, so very important condition. Only one change here, EFM will be slightly upward as compared to that. Okay, so now again, I think we have completed this this PDF, that is 3B. Correct, we have seen what is energy band diagram of a MOS capacitor, why the band bending happens, and what is the condition for the flat band voltage. We have seen three things. Okay, so now we'll take a biological break of maybe 10 seconds. So y'all can close your eyes, relax a bit, and we'll move on to the next topic. Let me see if anyone has a question. So relax for 10 seconds. If you have a question, you all can raise your hand. If not, I can keep the next PDF ready. Okay, let me take the 4A part. Okay, I hope that you all are relaxed a bit for a few seconds. Now let us begin with the next topic. Okay, so now we apply. Next topic is, how does the MOS capacitor behave under external bias? So far we have seen what will happen when the MOS capacitor, that is MOS, is brought together. All the three materials are brought together, we get a band bending naturally, and we have to apply external flat band voltage in order to get a flat band condition in case of a MOS capacitor. Now we'll concentrate on the fact that what will happen to the MOS capacitor under external bias. Okay, so let us see, there are three operating modes over here: accumulation mode, then we have depletion mode, and then we have inversion mode. Both are pretty simple. No, no complexity over here. But only thing is, all the three modes, we should be able to confidently draw the energy band diagram. Okay, so let us concentrate on this diagram. Later on, you all can note down this. This is the ultimate explanation. So for the next 5 to 7 minutes, please concentrate and listen to this. If you listen to the accumulation mode, the remaining modes will be very simple. Okay, so entire concentration over here. This is the final diagram, energy band diagram. We'll come back to it. Okay, so right now don't worry how we got it and all that. Right now just concentrate on the diagram over here, that is MOS, the MOS capacitor, wherein we applied a negative gate voltage. A negative gate voltage means your gate terminal is at a lower potential as compared to the body terminal. The body terminal is at a higher potential. Okay, so let us start. So when we apply a negative gate potential over here, there will be negative charges coming onto the gate. Because negative gate potential, so metal has only electrons. So what will happen? The electrons will be repelled away. So these electrons over here, let me just slightly maximize it. So let us concentrate on this diagram now. Okay, so only concentrate on this diagram. So again, listen to the wordings. When we apply negative voltage to the gate terminal, now when we apply a negative voltage to the gate terminal, metal has only electrons. So all the electrons will be repelled away near the metal oxide interface. Okay, but they cannot go through the oxide because oxide is an insulator. It will not allow any charge carriers to flow through it. So we can say that negative charges get accumulated near on the metal oxide side. So how much ever negative charges come onto the gate, that much ever positive charges should be coming into the semiconductor through the ground terminal. Correct? Fine. There will be no current flowing, but there will be charges which are there, which are flowing through the wire also, right? But there will be no current flowing. They will be stopping near the oxide layer. So what will happen is, similarly, we can say that we have applied the negative voltage over here, correct? And we have applied a positive voltage over here. So when we apply a positive voltage to the body terminal, what will happen? These are made up of, P-type silicon, right? It has majority holes. So holes will be repelled. So let's say we have 1,000 holes over here. Okay. So through these 1,000 holes, we have applied a positive potential. So they will try to go, more holes will be try to accumulate near the surface. Still, they cannot cross the interface, right? Because it's an insulator. So they get accumulated near this. Okay, so as we get more here, these silicon and oxide interface carrier holes. Do you agree or this? Agree or no on this? So there is accumulation of negative charge made up of electrons on the metal oxide side, and there is accumulation of holes on the semiconductor and oxide side. Okay, so as we get, here you see clearly there are electrons over here and there are holes over here. Negative charge and positive charge, they attract each other, but they cannot cross it. So more of them will get attracted, accumulated over here. Okay. So again, I repeat, negative voltage will push all the electrons near the metal oxide surface. A positive voltage at the body will push, will move the holes towards the oxide layer and will accumulate near the oxide semiconductor interface. Okay. So more negative charges means more majority carriers or excess holes gets piled up at the Si-SiO2 interface. Okay. So again, since the no current flows, fine, the negative charge at the gate should be equal to the positive charge near the Si-SiO2 interface in the semiconductor. Okay. So even though we apply externally negative potential at the gate, no carriers can cross the oxide layer. Therefore, how much ever charge come at the gate equal to the how much ever charge come at the gate, that is negative charge come at the gate, that much opposite charge will come at the semiconductor. So that the total charge should be 0. So that this charge neutral condition is followed in this condition also, in this case also, right? So let us see how do we draw the energy band diagram now. I hope that this concept is clear of why the name accumulation and what really happens over here. Okay, now concentrate on this. So let's build up, for the accumulation condition. Now, first thing first, when we apply, remember very carefully. Okay, when we apply negative voltage to the metal gate, I repeat, when we apply negative voltage to the metal gate, the Fermi level EFM on the metal side will increase. Okay, so let's see over here. Let's see, this is the condition, prior condition. Okay, this is the condition. Let us say flat band condition also. Correct. So here it is EFM and EFP aligned. Now what we are doing is, now we are applying at the metal side, we are applying a negative potential. So when we apply a negative potential, the electron energies will move up. Correct. So this EFM will move up. That is what we are. Your EFM will move up, okay, equal to the amount of gate voltage. So the Fermi level energy, or it's also called as the average energy. So this means that EFM will go higher as compared to the semiconductor Fermi level EFP. So yeah, so that is what will happen over here. Let's say if these two are anchor points, EFM and EFP earlier, prior to the voltage applied, the negative gate voltage applied, it is this way. Okay. After the negative gate voltage applied, your EFM will move upwards. So this is anchor point. So entire point will move upwards, right? And EFP will remain there only. So this happens because we apply a negative potential at the gate terminal. So EFM will move upwards for the metal gate. So what will happen? what will happen? There will be a band bending at the oxide layer, as you can see over here. So Q into VOx, what is VOx? VOx is the potential drop across the oxide layer. Definitely, you are applying a negative gate potential. So definitely there will be a voltage drop at the oxide layer. So EFM will move up, EFP will remain there only. These are the anchor points, and we draw the energy band diagram at the oxide layer like this. Okay. Now, since EFP is constant, as your EFP should be constant in the semiconductor, how should the how should the EC, EV, and EI look? Okay, so over here we have a band bending upwards from P silicon to metal. Okay, now next we'll see over here what will happen next. Okay, so now let me go directly over here. So what we will do is, since there is a pileup of majority carriers near the SiO2 interface, what can we say? We can say that near the SiO2 interface, my region is more positive. Can I not? Can I say that this is p-type silicon? But since this is accumulation of holes over here, majority carrier holes, can I say this region over here, near the SiO2 interface is more positive as compared to this region over here? Okay, so exactly that is what is happening over here. So what we will do is, we will draw the energy bands in the deep bulk p silicon. So p silicon substrate, nothing will happen. I mean, if we are if there are thousand holes over here, and we apply a positive potential, more holes are pushed inside, right? Excess holes are generated, correct? So more holes are pushed inside, but more hole concentration remains the same. But here we have excess holes, correct? So what will happen over here? In the bulk p silicon, this is the bulk p silicon, the energy bands will remain flat. Okay, but now what will happen, to indicate that the region near the oxide and the semiconductor is more positive, it is indicated by this EV should be more closer to EFP, right? If the Fermi level is closer to your valence band, it indicates a more p type. So that is what is happening over here. The EFP will be more closer to EV, and hence we have the band bending like this. Okay, and once you draw EV, your EI and your EC will be parallel to your EV. Okay, and hence we have this entire energy band diagram looking like this. I hope that this point is clear. Okay, so in this case your EFP is closer to EV, indicating that it is more p type at the surface than in the bulk. So we call this accumulation because here the majority carriers are getting accumulated near the SiO2 interface. So now let's see what is the amount of band bending. So the amount of band bending over here, that means the amount of band bending in the semiconductor, is called as Q into psi s. Okay, and here Q into psi s is the band bending over here. And what is the so the amount of band bending in the oxide is Q into VOx. Okay, so what we can say, that the gate potential Vg will be equal to Q into Vg. This is nothing but energy, but the gate potential Vg will be equal to psi s, which is the overall potential drop across the p silicon semiconductor plus the oxide potential. So Vox plus psi s is equal to Vg. That is the ultimate, the entire story of the accumulation region. Okay, so what is this Q psi s? Q psi s is the amount of band bending at the surface of the semiconductor measured with respect to bulk. So earlier we have said that wherever there is a bending in the band, there is a presence of electric field. Yes, there is a presence of electric field from positive to negative charge, from right to left over here. The electric field remains constant in the oxide, whereas in case of in the semiconductor, only near the semiconductor and the oxide interface, near that you have a small electric field which allows these bands to bend upwards. Okay, so this is the whole story about the accumulation mode. Any doubts, anyone? I'll wait for 5 seconds and I'll check out if anyone has raised hands. Okay, so we'll again take a quick biological break of around 30 seconds. So close your eyes and relax for 30 seconds. We will move on to the next part. That is the depletion mode. So look away from your computer screens. Don't constantly stare at it, and relax your eyes. Till then, I'll prepare the next part. That is the depletion region. Okay, fine. I hope that you all are feeling more relaxed. Fine. Instead of constantly staring at the computer screens. Okay. Now what is the concept? Now the concept second is very simple. This will be finished in 5 minutes. Here we have the MOS capacitor under external bias, that is depletion mode. Now what is depletion mode? Your gate voltage, instead of negative, we have applied a positive, but a small positive value. Okay, so what will happen is, let me just maximize this part. Okay, I think this much is enough. Let me just try maximizing it a little. Okay, yeah, this is fine. Okay, so now what happens? Instead of a negative gate voltage, we have applied a small positive gate voltage. So let's see what will happen. Whenever we apply a small positive gate at the metal and a negative voltage at the body terminal, okay, so that means your gate is positive as compared to the body or the substrate terminal. So when we apply a small positive potential to the gate, we get some positive charges coming out on the coming out onto the metal gate. So also at the same time, the majority carrier holes in the p silicon substrate would get repelled by the positive charges at the gate. Okay, so here we have a positive charges at the gate. So these positive charges will repel the positively charged holes present in the semiconductor. So basically what we mean is, when we apply a negative potential at the body, what will happen? The holes will get attracted to the positive to the negative terminal of the supply, right? So what will happen? The holes, if there are 1000 holes over here, and if they are attracted towards the negative terminal of the supply, what will happen? The holes will leave from here, right? Not from here. The holes will leave from here. So whenever the holes will leave their position, they will leave behind negatively charged immobile acceptor ions. As you can see over here, it's marked in orange color. So whenever the holes will leave their position from here, okay, since they are getting attracted towards the negative terminal supply, so what will happen? It will leave behind the it will leave behind immobile acceptor ions. Now, immobile means they cannot move, but they are negatively charged. So we have a negatively charged region over here near the Si-SiO2 interface. So we can say we have removed the majority carriers, and this region we have already seen in the PN junction. This region where we have depletion of we have removed the mobile carriers, and there we have left out with the immobile acceptor ions. This region is called as depletion region. These are depleted of any mobile charge carriers. Okay, these are fixed immobile ions, acceptor ions. Okay, so the the majority carrier holes in the p silicon will go away from the Si-SiO2 interface because of the negative voltage applied at the body terminal. Okay, so again I repeat, whenever we apply a positive gate voltage, a small positive gate voltage with respect to body, the majority mobile carriers holes are repelled away from the Si-SiO2 interface, leaving behind negatively charged immobile ions near the Si-SiO2 interface. This creates a depletion region near the Si-SiO2 interface. So which you can observe it over here. Let me show you all. Okay, here it is, the creation of a depletion region. And here the width of the depletion region, let's say it is XD. So XD is the depletion region width over here. Okay, this is the oxide, this is the semiconductor, and near the silicon dioxide interface we have this depletion region because majority carriers are being removed over here. Okay, now let us see how do we get this energy band diagram, and how does the band bending is like this over here. Okay, So let us start and let us complete that within time, allotted time. Okay. So whenever we apply a positive potential to the metal, we have applied, remember, positive potential to the metal. So what will happen? Whenever we apply positive potential to the metal, the Fermi level EFM will go down on the metal side. Okay. So let's say in the prior to applying anything, any voltage, the EFM and EFP are aligned together. Okay. And as soon as we apply a positive potential at the metal side, the metal energy level will go down, and this is how it will look like. So the EFM will move down. Let's say these are the anchor points. Okay, and EFM has gone down. Okay, so if EFM has moved down, that the energy level at the metal has moved down because of the application of the uh, of the of the positive gate potential. So what will happen at the oxide side, the band will bend like this. Okay, so the potential drop across the oxide is called as Vox. Okay, so this drop, this voltage over here is Vox. Okay, and now we know that as EFP is constant in the semiconductor, EFP is constant in the semiconductor, we need to draw the energy band diagram of EV, EI and EC on the semiconductor side. So here we can say the energy bands are bending downwards from P silicon to metal. Okay, it's bending downwards like this from P silicon to metal. From metal to P silicon, it's bending upwards. So there are both the interpretations over here. Okay, and now what we will see over here is we have already seen that at the bulk means away from the interface. So away from the interface, the whole concentration remains almost constant. No presence of any electric field over here. Okay, only thing is near the SiSiO2 interface, the leaving behind a negatively charged immobile ions. Okay, so that means near the SiSiO2 interface, the surface has become less p-type. We can say that less p-type, it is lesser positive as compared to the bulk. So at the bulk, we draw the flat lines now, EC, EV and EI. Very, very simple. Your EFP, your EV will be closer to it. Now EI will be in the midway of EC and EV. So it's very easy to draw the energy band diagram in the bulk P substrate. Next, to indicate that there is a negatively charged, there is less p-type near the SiSiO2 interface, right? So what will happen is it is indicated by this. Okay, so if EV is away, farther away than EFP, it indicates that it's a less p-type material. Okay, and EI is closer to your EV. EC is becoming closer to that. That means it's looking like a negatively charged. So here you can say that it is consists of a negatively charged region over here, which is filled with immobile ions. Okay, other way of saying it is less p-type. So it is indicated by, it can only happen if we move away. Okay, that's why the bending happens downwards over here. Okay, so this indicates once we draw the from this diagram to this diagram, indicating that the surface near the oxide and the semiconductor is less p-type, we can complete the remaining EI and EC diagrams because they will go in parallel with EV. Okay, so that's how we complete this energy band diagram. In this case, EFP will be away. This is the energy band diagram which you are supposed to draw. So in this case, your EFP will be away from EV. Hence, it is less p-type at the interface than in the bulk. So we call this depletion because here the majority carriers are repelled near the SiSiO2 interface. So again, here the amount of band bending will be Q into psi s. Q into psi s is the amount of band bending in the semiconductor. And again over here, we can say that Q into Vox, which is the oxide potential, plus the potential drop across the semiconductor is equal to the gate potential. Okay, and Q into psi x is the amount of band bending. And what do we have over here? We have two things over here. We have the bulk Fermi potential, which is this Q into phi f, and we have a Fermi potential which is Q into psi s, phi s. So we can also say that this amount of band bending Q into psi s will be equal to Q into phi f minus q into phi s. This is the bulk Fermi potential and this is the surface Fermi potential. Okay, so this is all which I want to cover. I think I cannot cover more than this. It's already 5 o'clock and already 45 minutes are already over. And I would like to, obviously there will be a presence of electric field over here also. So I detected from left to right. Okay. There will be electric field in the oxide and there will be a small electric field present in the semiconductor near the SiS interface. So I would like to take any questions now. I'll also stop the recording. Any questions? Let me unmute